So we are now off to Oh Brother, which is the little main quest thing that we've got now, which was we found this information in a note, in a prayer that was left in the church. It might not seem like much, but with all the loose ends strewn around us, we finally snagged a solid lead. North Brother Island is not the liveliest spot, but hey, it's totally the ministry style, if you ask me. Is where we're up to now. Do you have fun at the shop, Tabby? I used to be one of those kids who was always running around and staring up some shit after school. Shocking, I know. One of the favourite pastimes of my gang of little rascals was exploring the ruins of the old hill hospital at night. Well, exploring might be a bit of a stretch. We never actually got inside, just dared each other to stare into the windows for as long as we could. Usually, I was the last girl standing. But let me tell you, those hours after dusk in the fall, when every whisper of the wind, every rustle of the trees was multiplied by 100, they were torture. Now, I kinda miss those days. So when Paddy and I hit the wrecked pier of North Brother Island and see the derelict buildings nearby, I almost squeal with delight. Almost. The ambiance is pretty much ruined by the shiny new RIBs moored along the pier. I have fun. Got my package 4 kilograms of protein powder, got a bag of crisps and some coconut oil for my skin. Let's go. Yes, go treat yourself. Some of them have clearly been used in the last few hours, judging by the mud and melted snow on the seats. Just to make sure we're on the same page, what exactly is your connection to Sanskrit? So, you know I deal on the, let's call it the darker side of the web, right? Sounds like a wild evening. Shit, you're right. You're right, Jago. 3 equals I'm missing 500 calories for a pack of crisps it is. Let's go. What flavor crisps though? Like, what is the best flavor? It has come up, yes. Well, Sansrick was technically Renard's client, but I was the one one handling all the sketchy stuff he requested. Never met the guy or anything. Everything always went through Renard, but Sansrick is the only client I know by name. Sour cream and onion. Oh, like the Pringles. I love sour cream and onion Pringles. I'm going to add some to the shop right now, actually. I see. You mentioned before that he and Casal had a relatively good relationship. How do you plan to exploit that? I snort, half pissed that he knows me too damn well, half amused by that good relationship crap, since all it means is they didn't try to actively kill each other. I'm just about to break it down for him when suddenly we're cut off by gunshots. And they're getting closer. We duck down and observe as some guy comes tearing out of the pier, screaming his lungs out in terror. He's running backwards, tripping over every bump, while desperately trying to shoot at something in the trees, unaware that his clip has been empty for a while. He's decked out head to toe in urban warfare gear, reminiscent of the hunters I had the pleasure of meeting a few times. He hasn't noticed us yet, blinded by his delirious fear. Perfect moment to strike. And let Patrick take home. I hold back, realizing that I'm actually curious how Paddy handles situations like that. I catch his eye and jerk my head towards the screamer. Paddy gives me a confused look, then sizes up his target. I blink. On the next thing I know, he's already on the guy, fangs deep in his neck. Honestly, I didn't expect stiff upper lip Paddy to tear into the hunter with such ferocity. Who am I to judge? We like to pretend we're above mortals, but in the end, we're all just slaves to our hunger. All good? Paddy carefully sets the body down and wipes his crimson mouth clean, grimacing in disgust. Yes, forgive me, but that was quite revolting. I laugh a little. All is forgiven. If those were the Sansrix ministers who pushed this poor bastard to the edge, I'm not exactly eager to meet him myself. Paddy nods, looking at the lifeless body. He makes no move to hide it, so I don't bother either. We share a quick glance before sneaking cautiously through the thicket toward the ruins looming over the bare trees. We tread carefully through the bushes, mindful of the crunch of the snow underfoot. But let's be honest, the distant gunshots would have covered the sound of a stampede, although the shooting has died down in the last couple of minutes and replaced by blood-curdling screams of torment. We stumble upon several corpses, and surprisingly, a decapitated skeleton with scraps of decomposing flesh still clinging to it. The murder of crows feasting on the scene couldn't care less. To them, carrion's carrion. He gives us both some pause. Those fuckers. The screams are almost drowning out the gunfire now, suggesting that the ministers might be getting the upper hand. Better them than the hunters. I just hope they don't mistake us for enemies and decide we deserve a similar fate. Great, Carly. You've got yourself right in the middle of a fucking war zone. The whole city feels like a battlefield these nights. It's just our luck that we arrived right in time for the hostilities here. So, what's the plan? We could try sneaking past, hoping the hunters are too busy with the serpents to notice us, or... Look over there. There's a spot under that collapsed floor where we could hide out and wait for this to blow over. Paddy cocks his head, pondering, absent-mindedly twirling his ring. Not in a panic this time, but more like using it to focus. Oh. Finally, he drops his hands and looks at me calmly. I say we go wherever your daredevil instinct recommends. You sure you didn't hit your head on our way here? Positive. Well, let's kick some ass then. Maybe that'll score us a few points for Sanskrit right off the bat. Paddy nods and follows me as I kick down the door and enter the ruined building. Every sense heightened as my vitai surges in anticipation of the fight. The floor is a jigsaw of body parts. You could probably piece together a few whole bodies from the mess if you were so inclined, but I left my glue gun in the RV. I walked over them carelessly, only half noticing the sickening crunch of bone under my boots. As we creep through the building, Paddy suddenly stops and flashes 3 fingers at me. I press myself against the wall, tuning into the hunters in the next room. Paddy slyly kicks a pebble to mimic footsteps. Pulled, 2 hunters burst out, shotguns at the ready. Just a flick of his wrist, Paddy has one hunter gunning down the other. Confusion washes over the shooter's face just before I rip his throat out. The last one starts freaking out, blasting his assault rifle everywhere, trying to shoot us through the walls. I duck behind the door frame and sneak a quick glance. He's alone, terrified, and the crows cawing outside the window are not helping him one bit. But let's be real, in this horror show, we are the monsters. I take a deep breath and reinforce it with my vitae, wrenching the voice out of my throat as if shredding my vocal cords. Halt! The hunter freezes for a moment, scared shitless, but before he can shake off that terror, Paddy moves closer, rips the gun out of his hand, and clobbers the mortal with the butt. And I know that in games it usually means the enemy is knocked out, not actually dead. But the way his head explodes like a smashed watermelon? Yeah, I don't think this hunter's getting up anytime soon. The clamour we cause inevitably draws more trouble. As we turn to leave, a bunch of hunters fleets in, weapons at the ready. We go back to back and switch places, throwing them off balance. But before we can unlearn, we hear a loud ting, and the hunter in front of the door looks like he's about to lose his head. It's exactly what happens. His head is severed by a cut so clean that his body stands dumbly for a moment before crumpling onto the ground. Behind stands a group of serpents, all decked out in leathers and gold, scary as fuck. For a split second, the room goes deathly quiet, and then all hell breaks loose. Paddy and I hardly need to intervene. The hunters and serpents clash with each other. Gunshots echo, cries fill the air, and blood flows freely. It's all over in less than a minute. The kindred, predictably, emerge victorious, leaving one last victim unscathed. The silence that falls is so oppressive that it almost buzzes in my ear. I start to think I've gone deaf, but I see Paddy checking his ears and I relax a little, relieved that I'm not the only one so overwhelmed. The serpents don't move, don't speak, only look at us judgmentally, calculating. In this heavy silence, filled only by the scent of blood, the sound of approaching footsteps echoes like thunder. The man who enters the room is barely eye height. He carries himself with the grandeur of a king, the ruthless killer, ruler of his domain. Eli Sanskrit, the most powerful snake himself. In the silence of his movements, it is instantly clear that his thunderous entrance was all for show, an intimidation, a warning. Magnanimously, he was giving the assailants a chance to flee in disgrace, or letting them scatter for a more interesting hunt, likely. Hell, I'm not sure why Paddy and I didn't just bolt. The last remaining hunter tries frantically to crawl away, but he collapses under Sanskrit's skill-capped boot. That's when I realise why the serpent is walking so oddly. He's dragging a dead hunter impaled on the enormous claws protruding from his fingers. Body slides to the ground with a hollow thud. A kindred who seems to be his child, second in command, hands him a clean handkerchief, uses to wipe the blood off his hands, and then he promptly flings it onto the corpse. Standing over the whimpering human, he surveys the mortal with sheer disdain, then tilts his head to make direct eye contact with me. Given that you've been smeared with the blood of the cattle, am I right to assume that you are not part of their pathetic assault? There's something to him, this youth pastor intensity, that prompted me to answer immediately and recklessly. Please, I've had enough bullshit with that crew already. No, we're siblings in arms here. Let us not get ahead of ourselves. I toss him a sour glance, making me look uncool in front of the battle pastor. Sansric's gaze locks on me, unblinking. Posture rigid as a cobra's. His stare is so intense it almost makes me sweat. If I could sweat, that is. If I weren't so damn used to pressure. I try to appear relaxed and confident when he lets out a short, sharp whistle. Instantly, two of his serpents lift the last hunter, propping his limp body into a standing position, but Sansric doesn't spare him a glance. His eyes are fixed on me. He's been a real annoyance, this one. Quite the rogue, wouldn't you say? Of course you would. Why don't you teach him a lesson? Clearly not a real question, and the only acceptable responses are dutiful. Yes, sir. The perpetually spinning cogs in my head go into overdrive, looking for a way to impress Sansric. What do I know about him? He'd relish a show of power, that's for sure. But in what flavour? Cruel? Formidable? I'm running out of time. I feel my excitement rising like the tide, and the itch to do something dangerous and reckless returns with suffocating strength. I seize the whimpering mortal by the hair and plunge my fangs deep into his neck, letting my powers surge through me into his flesh during our unholy communion. I drink his blood, reveling in the way it temporarily quenches my hunger. Most of all, I make it feel good, electrifying, unparalleled. No, don't. The hunter won't last long without yearning for another kiss. Just like a man stranded in the desert would beg, maim, kill for a drop of water, he would do anything, everything, to satisfy this overwhelming need. At least for a time. I detach myself from his neck and gently lower him to the ground, his eyes glazed and vacant. His hand trembles as it reaches for his throat, fingers tenderly brushing the bite mark with a mix of longing and astonishment. I step back, giving Sansric a smug, amused, expectant look. He gives a nod of amusement. Interesting idea, making a hunter addicted to what he hates as much as he fears it. I nod, thankful for what I guess is a compliment. Sansric's snake-like eyes finally shift from me to that pathetic pile of crap on the ground that used to be a proud hunter. But it's not enough. He approaches the hunter slowly, lazily, and with both hands lifts the mortal off the ground by the shoulders. I watch from the sidelines as Sansric's bearing changes completely. Gone is the relentless intensity, the danger, the zeal. His eyes look soft and sweet when he looks at the hunters, a madness sighing into his ears, gently as if soothing a frightened animal. I watch with increasing surprise as the hunter melts into Sansric's arms and embraces him, sobbing into the crook of his neck, clawing desperately at his back, as if trying to draw him closer. It looks intimate, reverent, an encounter with the most beloved divine. Sansric carefully pulls away, ignoring the hunter's clinging hands, fishes out a hand grenade from the hunter's gear. Return to your patron. Make him see the error of his ways. The hunter immediately gets up, feet unsteady, and limps away, through the door and into all darkness. His gait is awkward and clearly uncomfortable, because he doesn't, even for a second, avert his worshipful eyes from Sansric's face. He struts toward the pier, his entourage obediently in tow, and of course we're dragged along too, thanks to an overly persistent servant who thinks shoving us is somehow necessary. It's not like we have a choice, right? With no more distraction, the path seems way shorter than I remember. I see one of those RABs bobbing on the East River in the distance. Must be that charmed hunter, off to ruin his boss's night. No. Sansric turns to PADDY and me. sizing us up with an icy glare, but even though his tone regains that frightening intensity from before, now there's a hint of benevolence. You have the misfortune of catching me in a nasty mood, I'm afraid, but if you provide an acceptable explanation for trespassing on my turf, I might just let you go. Well? I flick a glance at Patrick and catch his subtle nod out of the corner of my eye. Name's Carly, and this here's... Oh, I know who that is. The Baron's lapdog, the court's errand boy. I'm more interested in you. Gotta say, being in this kind of spotlight doesn't exactly boost my confidence. I'm Renard Cassell's child. I run with his coterie, and I know you've had business relations with him. I was actually the one who rushed the delivery of those trinkets you wanted. I didn't realize Sanstric's face could grow more sour, but here we are. His lips curl down, he knits his eyebrows, and he glares at me like I just kicked his cat. Then, unexpectedly, he throws his head back and laughs. Loud, free, mocking laughter that makes me lose my cool. His laughter abruptly stops, and he's back staring at me, coldly, unblinkingly, perfectly poised. I haven't heard from good old Ray in months, child. Whatever you think you procured for me went to someone else's hands. He falls silent briefly, and then his serpent eyes narrow. Do you even know what exactly it was that you acquired for him? My silence is his answer. Not gonna lie, his words hit me hard. I'm a little flustered. Renard rarely deigned to share his plans with me, but it wasn't like he made a habit of lying straight to my face. Why would he hide it all from me, specifically? As Sanskrit makes yet another disparaging sound at me, Paddy closes his throat and shifts the tight, scolding focus onto himself. Would you mind telling us about your last dealings with Cassell? Any information would help. I roll my eyes at his stiff and obvious attempt at wheedling him for Sanskrit, but he only smirks, then sighs as if thinking about Renard brought him great anguish. Which, admittedly, it might have. Nobody really thinks about Renard unless they absolutely have to. By that time, it's usually too late. I don't mind, though I must say that brat truly was insufferable, fixated on the antediluvians like a child obsessed with a new toy. This is a word we don't know. The founders of the original 13 vampire clans, also known as the Third Generation. For the last 1,000 years, many kindred assumed that antediluvians were asleep. Only a few believe they continue their struggle in subterfuge, conspiracy, and guile deep within the scenes of secret history. Okay. I'm staring at him, totally lost. Antediluvians? I still don't know how to pronounce that. Antediluvians is the best I can come up with that one. That's a first. What did Renard even want with the antediluvians? And why did he go asking the ministry? As if reading my mind, Sanskrit tosses me a sharp look and continues. How he came to learn that my clan, me in particular, holds knowledge of our most ancient ancestors is a mystery to me. But seek me out he did, asking numerous questions about ancestry, power, and blood. I jump a little when he waves his hand dismissively after such a long period of standing still. Let me be perfectly clear. The history of Clan Ravnos was never of interest to me, and I had little desire to discuss it. Neither had Renard, up until a few months ago. What prompted his interest in these topics, I haven't the slightest. But I'd bet the promise of profit was his primary motivation. What I will say, however, is that his focus on, how did you put it, business relations waned significantly. That's news to me as well. As far as I know, it's pretty much business as usual all the fucking time. For the first time in our conversation, Sanstric's face twists into the picture of true savagery. No more pleasantness, exasperation, or hints of courtesy, only anger, relentless and feral. Renard Cassell has been slipping in his promises, O child of his. I am done graciously waiting for reparations. Hi Shrek, are you winning, son? So this big angry red thing here says no, but I don't really know what it means, so I'm gonna ignore it and pretend that yes, I am winning. How was your day been, my lovely? Let me put my glasses on and actually read chat. That sounds like winning to me. Yeah, let's go. I upset a bunch of humans, I think. Well, basically, I murdered somebody and then I ripped apart some like church and now it's gone red, so I think it's the hunters are chasing me. That's what I've gathered so far with it. I sneak a look at Paddy and see him nod at me encouragingly. So I collect all the broken and certain pieces of myself and put them back together again. You can do it, Carly. Be charming, be careful, be calm. Never make promises, even those you intend to keep. I get it, so let me speak plainly. Renard's missing. Whether he's gone for good or just lying low, I can't say. No one's been able to reach him. I think he's out there somewhere, hiding, but he's off the radar. You've got your ear to the ground. Heard anything about Renard in the last few nights? I had to drive all the way to Middlesbrough to see my surgeon. He got me new painkillers. Double the amount he's supposed to is a big word. Wait, double the dose or like double the amount of tablets? Like the amount of painkillers he was supposed to give you? Either way, big wins. We take those. I just got my painkillers halved. So maybe you ended up with with the rest of my half that I was supposed to have. Who knows? Double the amount, therefore double the dose. I see. We take those. Big W's. How far away are you from Middlesbrough if it's all the way? Maybe Deranged should go see the doctor too. Maybe. He's huge. Do you need a thoracic surgeon? Oh, mine was wasn't thoracic lumbar. It was my surgery. Fucking Dr. Lahosky was my surgeon. He didn't give me fucking shit for my back. I was just like fobbed off to doctors afterwards. Damn, fuck you. Your ribs and give him a call. Yeah, for real, man, for real. But to be fair, we take those. I'm glad that even if it wasn't even if you had to go an hour and a half to get there, I'm glad that you at least, you know, got it all sorted out. You got your painkillers sorted. I can't remember what voice I used for Eli. We've been chatting shit for 2 hours. I can't remember what voice. I have no interest in that brat in so much as the objects he swore to procure for me. Since now I'm aware he had no hand in obtaining them, it is high time that I move on to greener pastures, don't you think? Especially since I know they intend to deliver. Yes? Gosrick almost seems like he might lighten up with a wink, but no, his expression snaps back to its usual icy detachment as he leans forward slightly. His gaze is steady and chilling as a snake's. Wrote it on my clarification. Fuck's sake, Maury. Renard Cassel meddles with powers beyond his ken. I wouldn't be surprised if the sudden uptick in hunter activity was linked to his actions in one way or another. I wait, hoping he'll elaborate on this strange and frankly insulting connection he's implying, but it seems he considers our discussion done. He straightens up and signals to his second in command, quickly moves in to receive his whispered instruction. There's no way this can be all we take away from such a critical meeting. I catch Paddy's eye and subtly move closer to him, ensuring our next words are shielded from any serpent ears. What's our next move? Sandstrick's clueless about Renard too. Your sire's messing with dangerous shit? Great, tell me something I don't know. What now? He hesitates briefly. Does it bother you that Cassel has been undermining you and reneging on commitments that involve your work? Yeah, kinda. And by kinda, I mean a hell of a lot. I know he's a bastard and I'm no saint either, but we had this unspoken agreement that we're not going to screw each other over, you know. This Professor Duke guy who runs the class I applied for is a Twitch streamer himself, so he knows what's up. Oh my goodness. To be fair, except I say moderating an active online chat room, we get to work with others and help prevent bullying harassment. Yeah, I was about to say there is definitely a way you could put a spin on being a mod to make it sound like you've got some I'll be a reference man, I don't care. I did with like DMing. I put a spin on it to make it sound like I knew what I was doing. I see. Should we take our farewell then? Hold up, there's one more thing I need to ask. I'll have be reference to. Hell yeah, we got you. I back away from our little huddle and cough to grab Sansric's attention. He acknowledges me right away, but he takes his sweet time wrapping up his chat before shooting me an impatient look. Just one more thing before we scram. The circulatory system seems to have a hit list, and Renard's sitting at the top. Any clue what that's about? Sansric's eyes narrow in anger and contempt. Well, colour me astonished. He was blabbing on and on about his latest illustrious benefactor who could help him circumvent the red market. He makes such a sour face that if we were still mortals, I'm sure he'd be spitting in disgust. Seems like he ended up on the bad side of that slumbering bitch on the Hudson. Frankly, good riddance with that. I'm utterly lost here. And who do you mean exactly? My attention remains fixed on Sansric, but I can't ignore the abrupt, frantic motion of PADDY violently spinning his downed ring. Sansric gnashes his teeth and a low, soothing murmur ripples through his followers. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. That bitch, Vritra, or whatever the fuck her name is. You don't know her? Then count your blessings, child. To the blah blah, possession is all. They aim to dominate and own the subject of their possessiveness. Jealousy guarding it like their namesake Dragonwood its hoard. Everything from land, people, cults, companies, or gangs can fall under the contagious claws of a dragon. This relentless desire extends to their own bodies as well, and they often rework themselves into flawless, hideous, or utterly alien forms, all the better to display their utter control over all things theirs. Again, I'll plug you to the class for real free advertising. You do not need to do that, I promise. I'll be a reference for free, man. Don't worry about it. What's her deal? Her deal is she waltzes in like she owns the place and steals what's been rightfully ours for decades. His eyes blaze with pure yellow light, fangs elongating as his jaw loosens in a furious scream. I swear I catch a glimpse of a forked tongue flickering back into his mouth as he calms down, regaining his usual captivating appearance. I add two and two together and realize this Ritra. I'm going to say Ritra. I feel like it's Ritra and the V is silent. Must have been the one who ousted the Serpents from their turf in Harlem. I shoot a knowing glance at PADDY, but he's too fixated on that damn ring of his. So I decided to press Sansric a bit harder. I wonder what kind of relationship Renard has with this Ritra. Do you think? I do not think about her, child of Renard, nor do I wish to start. My time is precious. We're done here. So much for pressing. Sansric fully turns his back to me, conspiring with some of his serpents. I strain my ears to hear their whispers, not even out of need to hear what they're saying, but more out of sheer curiosity. PADDY gently tugs on my sleeve. I think our meeting has concluded. We should leave before Sansric drives us off his turf. Yeah, we're leaving empty-handed, huh? Well, at least we confirmed that Sansric has nothing to do with Casella's disappearance. Let's discuss strategy once we're gone from this place. I nod, clear my throat loudly, speak without waiting for Sansric to face me. Thanks for not throwing us out on our asses sooner, Sansric, and for the info too. We'll get out of your hair now. I spin on my heel, but his stare halts me dead in my tracks. You should leave the city, child. Looking for that sire of yours will yield nothing but death and ruin. If your leaving means that brat digs himself deeper into his own shit, he gives me a smirk, the first one yet, then I might be willing to lend a hand. I'm ready to snap at him, scream in his face that I don't need his damn pity, but then it hits me like a freight train. He's not offering help out of sympathy. He'd get off on watching Renard suffer, no doubt about it. But then his offer, it's like this weird mix of prickly-ass kindness, something you hardly ever see in our kindred world. It's that fucked up kindness alone that keeps my mouth shut. So instead, I give a silent nod and hook arms with PADDY as we dip out of that decrepit building into the frigid dead of night. Can I help you? I'm sorry, I've been slowly moving my mug further and further over my desk, and Nico's just been following it, trying to stick her head in it. Alrighty then. So that was something. Not really sure what to make of that.